Imagine never having stick drift again. It may be hard to put yourself in that mental space because so many modern first-party controllers, from the now infamous Switch JoyCons to even DualSense controllers, do eventually fall victim to it. In case you're not sure what it is, if you've ever been playing a game with a controller and either your character or your camera randomly or consistently moves ever so slightly in one direction, even when you're not touching your controller at all, that's stick drift. It's a malfunction or defect that's caused by the internals of analog sticks rubbing away material over time, and it affects a lot of modern controllers, becoming something many players eventually experience coming for them, accompanied by a feeling of growing dread. Stick drift sucks. It sucks for everyone, but it's really awful if you're trying to record footage that you want to look smooth, consistent, and good, like myself and a lot of my friends do. I once replaced one of my best friend's controllers because he was trying to record Ghost of Tsushima videos and one of his sticks was constantly drifting, making him have to constantly fight his controller when he was already in the process of doing something challenging enough on its own, something that takes many resets and failures without having stick drift ruining your day, let alone with it. Well, around the height of the anti-stick drift rage on social media, I distinctly remember people starting to post about a new way of building analog sticks that overcomes and transcends stick drift. These sticks use something called the Hall effect. You can look up how this works by yourself, but the short explanation is that Hall effect sticks lean on using magnetic fields to register analog stick movement input, so the act of physical materials rubbing against each other like in standard analog sticks isn't so much of a thing. I would have thought this would make them more expensive, but that didn't seem to really be the case. At the time, I kept seeing people I followed online recommend one controller they were all happy with, and I kept a mental note of it because it kept popping up. The GameSir G7 SE. I have a bias against third-party controllers, but everyone I saw posting about this one was really satisfied. Even Camicakes, if you know him, posted a very positive review of it on his channel, and that really got my attention. It got to a point where I even started recommending it to my friends based on the good word of mouth whenever they were suffering from stick drift, and they all came back with happy stories. It got to the point where I really wanted to try it myself, but I never got around to it. A few weeks ago, GameSir emailed me and asked me if I wanted them to send me a controller so I could try it out and give my thoughts. Since I've always wanted to try one of these, I made sure the offer was legit and accepted. They sent me the GameSir Kaleid, which is very similar to the G7, and it still has the same claim to fame feature, Hall Effect 6. It arrived 2 days ago, and I've been playing my current main game, Warframe, with it. The last 2 Warframe videos I uploaded to this channel were recorded on that controller. Some of my movements and aim are a little messy since I'm still getting used to it, but overall I'm happy with it as well, just like my friends, and it feels pretty good. It came in a pretty standard box. You could tell they threw it around a bit during transport, but it's fine. Inside the presentation packaging there's an inner box made of cardboard, with the GameSir branding needle punched in, and a handy pull to unbox tab, which was actually quite satisfying. Once that's done, the actual controller's inside, along with a USB-C cable, some stickers, little instruction leaflets, and a code for Xbox Game Pass, which I'm sure some people will appreciate. The controller I got, the Kaleid, has a translucent shell, letting you see into the internals a little bit, though the shell on the back is too frosted to really get a good look inside. The face buttons feel pretty clicky and interesting. They have micro switches that feel almost like clicking a mouse button. You might even be able to hear a bit of that here. On the back there are 2 back paddles which you can program to emulate any other button on the controller without having to use an app. In fact, about all the basic extra functionalities you'd want to access can all be done by holding the small M button at the bottom of the controller's front, then pressing or holding the relevant button. For example, I don't like to have lighting on my controller usually, so I just turned it off by holding M and moving the left stick down a few times to dim the lighting until it disabled completely. The sticks feel pretty good to move around, though they did feel a little too responsive when I started playing, running around, and aiming in-game, which I think is a consequence of the Hall effect construction principles, but for most people that'll actually be a good thing. I lowered my in-game sense to respond to that, and it was fine. Once I connected it to my PC, I had to press the Xbox button at the top to have it actually become active, but once that's done, Steam just recognizes it as an official Xbox controller, so it should work fine with anything you want to play. The first thing you'll really feel with this controller is that it's really light, surprisingly light. I asked 2 of my friends who both have GameSir G7s if they felt the same with theirs, and they both confirmed that. These are very lightweight controllers. If your hands are a bit on the smaller side or you find other controllers a bit heavy, you'll probably be pleased with the Kaleid and G7. If you're used to heavier controllers like I am with the DualSense though, it will take some adjustment. Next, the back paddles are easy to press by accident for me. I've never had other controllers with back paddles before, so this is my first experience with this kind of button, and it's possible I just hold my controllers quite firmly, but both of my friends also mentioned the same thing happening to them with theirs. I think this is an aspect of the design that maybe doesn't take into account how strongly players actually hold their controllers on a day-to-day basis. Having to change your muscle memory from standard controllers in order to use this one is something I personally don't love and would take some points away for. That's just me. The actual usefulness of those back paddles is really up to your imagination though, which is great. They may not be relevant in every game out there, but if you're a creative thinker and can assign the paddles buttons you need fast access to, they can work wonders. I found the best uses for it were buttons that would normally need me to take my thumbs off the analog sticks in order to press. So I had my left paddle open my overlay map in Warframe by binding it to the select button, so I could quickly check more of the area around me while moving. And I had my right paddle be my melee button, which I would normally have to take my thumb off the right stick in order to press. If I could get used to not pressing them by accident, I would probably actually assign jump or the A button to the right paddle, since you press the jump button a lot in Warframe, even more than melee in most cases, and being able to press that without relinquishing control of my camera would likely be very good. Despite the controller being so light and having such cool tech working inside it, it feels reasonably solid. I played with it for about a full day of gameplay, which for me in that case was about 8 hours, since I also kept playing after finishing my videos, and the feel of it is growing on me. It's also got a standard headphone jack, which I did test. It's fine, works like it's supposed to. Would I use this over another controller? Not as long as my DualSense is alive, but that's a personal taste thing. My absolute favorite controller I've ever used still remains the DualSense, and I don't think any third-party or Xbox controller could ever change that or make me change my mind in how good it feels to me, but I do recognize those controllers being first-party eventually have issues with stick drift, which is the exact thing that GameSir's products are aiming to address. I know that my Kaleid controller will outlast and outlive my DualSense, and it'll be nice to have something reliable that I can trust to game on when I need it. If you're someone who really loves or preferences Xbox controllers though, I could see GameSir's offerings really hit just right for you. The Kaleid is either about the same price or even a bit cheaper than first-party PlayStation or Xbox controllers you could buy, as far as prices I can see in Canada go. With that in mind, this controller also comes with those cool extra features like the programmable back paddles or hair triggers. About the only thing you really have to watch out for is these are wired, so if you need wireless gaming, beware, this isn't it. I don't hate the Kaleid at all. It's a nice controller to game on, and from what I've seen of GameSir's app that you can download, their controllers are pretty customizable, especially if you're going to be using them to play shooters, for example. You can get some proper granular tweaking and tuning done on what is functionally the weapon you take into every game you ever play, which I'm sure some people will really appreciate. I'm not someone who values that enough just yet to spend the time to experiment and learn the cause and effect of every tweak and decision, so I mostly just leave things to their defaults and alter settings in-game. But the fact that the option is there is really, really great. If you need a new controller and just despise stick drift, or you've been already traumatized by it, especially if you like using Xbox controllers, the Kaleid or GameSir's other ones would be just what you're looking for. If, like me though, you love the layout, form, and weight of a DualSense, I wouldn't expect this to change that for you. That's still my favorite, and it probably will be for the foreseeable future. I'll keep playing on the Kaleid for a little while to see how I continue to grow into it and get to grips with its intricacies, but my initial impressions are very positive. Probably a good thing too, because I think I can already feel my DualSense starting to drift slightly, especially when I'm in menus, which Warframe has a lot of. Thanks to GameSir for sending me this controller to talk about, and thank you for watching my video. May fog shroud you, may stars light your way, and may the night keep you safe.